There's one man who's received more prison time than any other person arrested during the political protests at the Capitol. His name is Enrique Tarrio, and he is currently serving 22 years in prison for seditious conspiracy. Here's the problem. When you actually look at the evidence in his case, there are some shocking facts that have never been talked about in the mainstream media. We're going to look at what actually happened that day, and I'm going to tell you the truth about Enrique Tarrio. On June 28th, just last month, the Supreme Court overturned 350 cases of people who have been charged with the felony charge of 1512c2, obstructing an official proceeding. Many of these people, during the protests at the Capitol, were not violent and simply walked through the Capitol building. The Supreme Court found that the Department of Justice was wrong to charge nonviolent protesters with felonies and imprison them. That happened a month ago. Except nothing has happened. The Department of Justice has not overturned anyone's conviction. They are just keeping everyone in jail. How can the White House just ignore the Supreme Court? Just so you understand what is happening, the Supreme Court's decision means that most of these people should never have gone to prison at all. That means that hundreds of people have spent the last 3 years in prison for no reason. Why has the Department of Justice not let anyone out yet? We need to demand some answers. One of the people who received the felony charge of 1512c2 is Enrique Tarrio. He's the leader of a group called the Proud Boys. You might remember the Proud Boys because Donald Trump mentioned them during one of his past debates.
But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared to specifically
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
white like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
militia.
The mainstream media lost their minds over this moment.
Number two, only three things happened for me tonight. Number one, Donald Trump refused to condemn white supremacy. Number two, the President of the United States refused to condemn white supremacy. Number three, the Commander-in-Chief refused to condemn white supremacy on the global stage in front of my children, in front of everybody's families, and he was given the opportunity multiple times to condemn white supremacy, and he gave a wink and a nod to a racist, Nazi, murderous organization that is now celebrating online, that is now saying we have a go-ahead. Look at what look at what the Proud Boys are doing right now online because the President of the United States refused to condemn white supremacy. That's the only thing that happened tonight. That's what happened tonight.
When I started researching this story, I was pretty shocked because I had heard the news coverage like everyone else about these horrible white supremacists. Here's a photo of Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys. Do you notice anything? He's not white. I don't know what race he is. He looks kind of Cuban to me, but he's not white. How can he be a white supremacist if he's not white? Not only that, his name is Enrique. How can you be a white supremacist if your name is Enrique? Is it possible that the mainstream media has been lying to us this whole time? I think if Enrique ever gets out of prison, he should sue CNN for defamation. All you have to do is look at a photo of Enrique to debunk what CNN is reporting about him. So now we know the media is lying about Enrique Tarrio. Is there anything else shady going on about this case? I'm here to tell you that there is, and I have video. In the early morning hours, the FBI arrested Enrique Tarrio in his underwear. The curious thing here is that the news media is outside his house filming all of this. How did the news media know about the police raid before the sun came up? And why was it necessary for the FBI to parade Enrique around outside his house in his underwear? Here is footage from later on. So it looks like the FBI let him put on some clothes before they took him to the police station. If they were going to let him put on clothes, why was it necessary to march him around outside his house in his underwear? It seems like they're doing their best to destroy this guy. So what did he do that was so bad during the political protests at the Capitol? It turns out that he was not even there in Washington, D.C. On January 6th, he was in a different city in his hotel room in Baltimore. This man received the longest prison sentence of anyone associated with January 6th, and he was not even there. The prosecution claims that Enrique Tarrio was the leader who coordinated the whole thing. On top of the 1512c2 felony charge, which has now been debunked, Enrique was charged with seditious conspiracy. Now, if the 1512c2 felony charge ended up being bogus, is it possible that the sedition charge is also bogus? Sedition means to overthrow the government. Now let me just throw an idea out there. I am betting that the Proud Boys own some guns. I'm betting they own a lot of guns. If they were actually trying to overthrow the government, why would they go to the Capitol without bringing their guns? They didn't bring any guns to the Capitol. I would argue that is evidence that they were not trying to overthrow the government. In fact, it seems to support the idea that they were there to peacefully protest. Well, all except for Enrique Tarrio, who wasn't even there. Something doesn't seem right about the prosecution's story. So what is the evidence that the prosecution actually has? I've gone through the indictment. The evidence against Enrique Tarrio consists of a handful of posts on social media and several direct messages he sent to his friends on January 6. This man sent mean tweets, and for that, he's being accused of coordinating January 6 and is going to spend the next 22 years in prison. Let me just give you an example of one of the posts. This is probably the worst one. He writes, "The media constantly accuses us of wanting to start a civil war. Careful what the blank you ask for. We don't want to start one, but we will sure as blank finish one." Here's the craziest part. This was posted on November 6, 2020, 2 months before January 6. This has nothing to do with January 6. This was the evidence the prosecution presented in the case. Something from 2 months before anything happened. What was actually illegal about what he said? Now, I will admit that he's using a few too many swear words here, but the last time I checked, this is America. Isn't this covered under his First Amendment right to freedom of speech? He's talking about civil war. If you look at someone like Tim Pool on YouTube, he talks about civil war every day.
My goodness. Half of Americans expect a second civil war within years. More than 40% agree with great replacement theory, and nearly a fifth expect they will choose to bring a gun to a violent political... What? Wow. Whoa. Alarming poll shows.
How do you poll that?
That's bold. Call 1,000 people and be like, do you plan on bringing a gun to a political event? Like, yes, I do. Okay.
Indeed, I do.
Can I recommend against that?
What is this White House going to do? Try and throw Tim Pool in jail next? It's not illegal to post a tweet about civil war. It's certainly not enough evidence to prove that Enrique Tarrio tried to overthrow the government. But there was something else. The prosecution introduced a document from Enrique Tarrio's messages called 1776 returns. This was a document containing plans on how to overthrow the government and take control of the Capitol. The prosecution claims this proves that Enrique Tarrio planned and coordinated the entire protest. Except it turns out that wasn't Enrique Tarrio's document. That was sent to him in a message by a girl named Erica Flores. She was trying to seduce Enrique, and she sent him this document. In fact, there's no evidence that Enrique even opened or read the document. Erica admitted in an interview that the document was written by someone named Samuel Armz. Samuel Armz is a former State Department and Special Operations official. So this shadowy government figure wrote an incriminating document which was then planted on Enrique Tarrio by some girl who was trying to seduce him. This sounds like entrapment. Is this girl an undercover Fed? Was this all a setup? This document is the main piece of evidence the prosecution used to claim that Enrique Tarrio committed sedition. It seems to me like there's a lot of problems with this document, if he didn't even write it. What's really strange to me is, why is this girl not in prison? It's her document that supposedly planned the entire protest. How come nothing is happening to this girl or the shadowy government figure who wrote the report? So that's it. That's the case against Enrique Tarrio. I kept looking through the indictment trying to find more evidence. There is none. They are claiming that he was the head of the Proud Boys, he posted on social media, he sent text messages, and he had the 1776 returns report. That is their proof that this man tried to overthrow the government of the United States. Am I missing something here? This is crazy. This man, who was not even in the same city, received the longest prison sentence of anyone at the protests. Why are they so determined to destroy this guy? There's no proof that he actually did anything related to the protests. The entire case is based on the fact that he posted mean tweets about liberals. Because he posted all these mean tweets, he must have committed sedition. I think we found out the true motivation of this case during the trial. The prosecution came to Enrique Tarrio with the plea deal. They claimed they would let him out of prison if he would just testify against Donald Trump. This is audio of Enrique Tarrio inside prison explaining what happened.
They wanted me to lie. They gave me a deal. They gave me a sweetheart deal. I could have been home right now. I could have been home with my family. Could have been in my warm bed, hanging out. And they told me, hey, we're going to tell you a story, and all you have to do is confirm it, and we'll get you home. You know what that story was, Jake? Well, they asked me to lie about Trump. That's what they wanted. They wanted the connection. They wanted the connection to January 6th, the ground on the Capitol. Unfortunately for them, it's not true, and I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to perjure myself in front of them to say that. And that's what they wanted me to do. They were coercing me to do it. And in the words of, like, in their own, using their own terms, they're doing this for a political gain, right? And they're using force. The use of force is putting us in jail. Yeah, of course. So what is trying to change an outcome politically of something by the use of force? There's a word for that, and that word's terrorism, right? And like trying to coerce somebody by granting them, by threatening them with jail time is ridiculous.
It goes far beyond bribery, far beyond corruption. This steps over the boundaries into basically what constitutes an internal coup d'etat that the Democrats are trying to run on Trump to stay in power. And they're using this is the victims. These are the people. The real life people. Enrique Tarrio, if you don't fold, if you don't lie for us, we will ruin your life and throw you in prison and lock you in a cage. If you don't help us get Trump, there will be extreme consequences. That's what the FBI came to Enrique Tarrio with.
This is shocking. They offered to let him out of prison. If he was so dangerous that he really tried to overthrow the government, why were they about to let him out of prison? They were coercing him to try to get him to lie about Donald Trump. And because he would not lie in court, he is now serving 22 years in prison. This is wrong. I have gone through all the evidence in this case, and it looks like this man is completely innocent. He's innocent, and he's spending 22 years in prison. The Supreme Court already overturned one of his felony convictions. I think his other charges are bogus as well. Think about this. Enrique Tarrio made the choice between telling a lie and spending 22 years in prison. He chose to remain in prison. That means not only is he innocent, it means he's a decent human being. I know the mainstream media has been saying constantly that he's a horrible person, but that's not what I see. It seems to me like he's a giant teddy bear. But there's another story about Enrique Tarrio that you should also know. You would think that someone who's been so unfairly treated might be sitting in his cell being depressed. But that's not what he's been doing. He's been working. The prison has a program where inmates can work and train service dogs. What they do is they give the prisoner a newborn puppy, and the dog sleeps in a kennel next to the prisoner in his cell. Enrique Tarrio has been training this puppy to be a service animal. He's spending his time in prison working to make the people's lives outside better. He's literally in his cell playing with puppies. I've got to say, it's getting harder and harder not to like this guy. A couple in Texas had just lost their dog to cancer, and they were looking for a service dog to adopt. They heard there was one available through the prison system. The couple drove across the country to pick up the dog Enrique was training. The dog is called Blue. When this couple arrived at the prison, what they found was the most amazing puppy. Blue was only 5 months old. They received a journal that Enrique had wrote about the dog. In it, he explains the commands he taught, including roll over, high five, and shaking hands. The dog is doing all of this at only 5 months old. I want to read you the instructions he wrote for the command home. Probably the most coveted of commands. Blue will return indoors when you say, go home. We know Blue will be going to a good home, as most of us feel we will also be enjoying soon. So we hope you enjoy Blue as much as we have. He truly is the definition of good boy. You're his handler now, and are now in charge of his happiness. We wish you and Blue well. Some of my new subscribers may not know this about me. The reason my channel is called Wolves in Finance is because I grew up in a pack of wild dogs. My parents raised hunting dogs, so I was always surrounded by a pack of ferocious animals. The deal with hunting dogs is it's important to maintain the dog's wild instincts, so you want them to be ferocious. The side benefit of spending all this time with a pack of dogs is that I've never met a dog that doesn't love me. It's a little unusual. My point is that I know a lot about dogs. There are some things that dogs are very intelligent about. They are very good at identifying when someone is a bad person or a threat. Dogs are very smart. If there's any dog people out there watching this, let me know in the comments what you think. Can you please confirm that dogs are very intelligent about this? If Enrique Tarrio was truly the evil person the prosecutors say he is, he would not have been able to train that puppy. Or if he did, Blue would not have turned out to be the loving puppy that he is. We should be putting this puppy on the witness stand and asking him if Enrique Tarrio is a good person. I am betting that puppy dog would say yes. Unfortunately, Enrique Tarrio does not have many options. He's already convicted and sentenced. If Donald Trump manages to get elected, it is possible that he could pardon Enrique Tarrio. Otherwise, he can appeal his case, but he's already incurred enormous legal bills. If you'd like to donate to his legal fund, I have linked his GiveSendGo account below. I think that any amount would be helpful, and I will personally be going over there and making a donation. But I realize that times are tough and not everyone has the ability to donate. There is something else you can do that is free and can have a huge impact. I did a search and I found him. Enrique Tarrio is currently being held in a prison in Manchester, Kentucky. I'm going to put up the address on the screen on how to send him letters. He's going to be in prison for a long time. I think it would mean a lot for him to receive any letters letting him know that you are praying for him. I have my letter ready to go. How about you? Now I want to hear from you. Do you think that Enrique Tarrio is innocent? Leave a comment down below. And if you like these videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm Zach from Wolves in Finance. Thank you for watching.